Hi everybody, this is Saran Cliff. I am the co-owner and director of the Black Cat Talent Company. I just wanted to do a video on remote working. So I know it's a challenge that lots of you have faced this year. In the resources section of our website, you'll be able to find lots of information from a recruitment, HR, talent, training, learning and development background that should help you with employee engagement and lots of other things in your business. But today's video is about remote working. So as many of you have experienced in 2020 and going into 2021, remote working is something that you might have done previously, but now most of you are definitely going to have experienced, as I am right now, not in the office, I'm at my dining room table. So many companies are now considering a more permanent move to remote working, and starting to think about how this will affect their business productivity, their people strategy, really the well-being of their workforce. So whether your staff and yourself have taken to home working like a duck to water, or whether there have been numerous challenges along the way, moving from a situation where you've been thrown into home working or remote working to something that you're doing more permanently, and that's something that will actually form the way in which the employees in your business work moving forward, it's something that needs some serious consideration. So in accompaniment to this video, our remote working fact sheet is on our website. In the resources section, you can see that and all the information will be on there for you too. But I'm just going to run you through a few things that you need to think about if you're considering a permanent move to home working. So first of all, another thing that you can find in the resources section on our website is our remote working questionnaire. So before you start to think about a more permanent move towards remote working, you probably need to consider how working from home and remote working has affected your workforce already. What are the challenges they've faced, what have they found really easy? What has affected them? Maybe from a mental health perspective, what equipment have they struggled without? Really asking your employees to air their voices, concerns, comments, feedback, positive or negative, before you move to a permanent home working plan should be really helpful to you, and it'll allow you to consider certain things that you may not have encountered or thought about yourself. So the first thing really you need to do if you're considering making a permanent move to remote working is to have a remote working policy in place. I'm aware that some companies have had one for years. Other companies won't have had one and may have been working in this way for 9 to 12 months now, but still won't have a remote working policy. And that's something you really need to start thinking about. Things to consider within your home working policy. Will home working be applicable and available to everyone in your business? Will there be a criteria to allow you to apply for home working, permanent home working? And how will you communicate who the opportunity is going to be open to and the reasons for this? So it could be people that live more than 20 minutes away from the office are the only people that would be considered for home working, to cut out on long commute times, for the environmental impact, financial impact, the length of time added on to the course of the day. It might be that you're going to offer home working to every single person within your organisation because your type of business allows you to be able to do that. Worth thinking about. Potentially leaving yourself open to some kind of discrimination if some people are allowed to home work and some people aren't. So the reasoning behind that is going to be really important. If your home working contract is different offers different terms to the contracts of employment that your staff are already on, then you need to consider a variation of terms. So it might be that you need to change place of work, hours of work, whatever it might be. But if there's any difference from the original employment contract for individuals, then you will need to issue a variation of terms, and that will need to be agreed by both parties. So company and personal equipment, this is an interesting one. What equipment will you provide your employees with to allow them to perform their job? And equipment that they may just have around the house that they may use every day, are you going to ask them not to use that? Will they be permitted to use it? So that's really interesting. For example, they may have a landline phone and don't get a very good signal on their work mobile, so they might use their landline from time to time. Is that going to be permitted, or must they use the equipment that you give them? Contact with manager. Again, this is something that needs to be covered in your remote working policy, but obviously different roles, positions in the business, people, seniority will have different rules around the contact you need to make with your manager. So will this be a fluid arrangement, or will you insist on catch-ups at regular intervals, specific times throughout the day, week, month, whatever it might be? Utilities costs. Again, your gas, electricity, water for home workers. Ordinarily, you wouldn't have been spending any money throughout the course of the day. You'd be at work, in your office, so your costs at home will have gone up. Will you contribute towards that? Data protection. Does the data protection policy that you currently have in place need to be amended to support home working? Will you be providing a lockable cabinet for confidentiality purposes, so where certain documents can be locked away? And will you issue guidance around confidential information in your remote working policy? Health and safety. Do you have a lone workers or a home workers risk assessment? How everybody will need one. Will you send a health and safety manager out to talk through that lone workers risk assessment with the individuals within your company? And while they're there, would you consider them doing an audit on workspace, display screen equipment, that sort of thing? So working hours, again, will this be on a flexible arrangement basis? Will you insist on set hours of work each day or each week? Or will it be a set number of hours that just need to be fulfilled throughout the course of the week? How are you going to detail that down? First aid, another interesting one. There's a certain responsibility there from yourselves as the employer. Will you put your remote workers through some kind of online first aid course? Will you provide a small first aid kit for personal use? You may not, but that will need to be detailed down in your remote working policy. Really, as a contract on both sides, there may be some things you're expecting your remote workers to provide or have access to. Lastly, hazardous substances. Will you offer guidance on this to your remote workers? So that really is the kind of legal side almost of points that should be raised in your remote working policy. Other considerations, things that you just might like to think about, things that we've probably learnt over the past 12 months, really, things that have come to the forefront a little bit. So other considerations, different employees, different needs. How will you ensure that each of your employees feels well supported in their new working environment? It's really easy, isn't it, when we're all in an office together? You can see when somebody's perhaps not integrating as part of the team, feels a little bit lonely, feels a little bit on the outside. I know I'm always looking out for that. You can go and put an arm around somebody, well, not at the moment, and pull them back in, have a chat. If you're not there to spot these things as a supervisor or a manager, how are you going to handle them? How are you going to make sure it's a really inclusive team environment and everybody feels part of it? Company culture. So this is a big one. But some companies still don't actively do lots of work to enhance their company culture and their employer brands, their just general environment that their workforce work in. But other companies, work really, really hard on that. And actually, it's going to be real big change to move from, again, as we said on the last point, different needs for different employees. Exactly the same with employee engagement, really so much easier to create a lovely, friendly working environment and employee culture when you're all under the same roof. Little bit more difficult when you're not. It's quite often, I know when I had a large team, you take, I don't know, cakes or fruit or something in. If everyone was having a particularly bad time, we might go for a drink after work together, whatever it is. It's not always easy to do that when you're not working together. So another thing that has been on quite a lot of people's radar this year is mental health. So are your leaders, managers, supervisors trained to recognise signs of poor mental health? And how do you support your leaders in this? I think this is such an important point. So I've spoken to lots of supervisors who have said that they are now being tasked with looking out for signs of poor mental health within their team, within their workforce, but have had absolutely no training, guidance and support to enable them to do this. I think we put a lot on our middle managers, and we're almost asking them to be, psychologists in a sense. So how are you going to support your supervisors in supporting the wider workforce and ensuring that everybody is taking care of their mental health as well as their physical health? So some of your staff, last point, may find it hard to switch off at the end of the workday, or, and I know this is a big one, want to prove that they're working by overworking. So I know that some companies that don't have that flexibility on work hours, as we discussed earlier, will insist that nobody logs into their emails for specific times of day or their laptops. Are you going to do that? Or what are you going to do to ensure that your team members are switching off, taking care of their mental health during downtime, and then switched back on, alert and ready to go for work, and not kind of drip feeding 24/7 bits of their work life into their home life? Work-home life balance is probably easier to manage when you've got people in the office. And I know when I had a really dedicated team, young team full of energy and enthusiasm, I would quite often have to say, guys, you've got to go home. Not on a Friday, they'd be out there on a Friday, but if we're working on a big project together, they would be getting stuck in. And I'd say, I need you back here refreshed in the morning. Not as easy to do when everybody is in their own little home remote working bubble. All of the information I've told you today is on our remote working fact sheet, which you can find in the resources section of our website. The Black Cat Talent Division, again, you can find a link on the website. You can get in touch with me or with a member of the team if you need some help in devising, rolling out your home working, remote working strategy and home working policy. And if you need some guidance, hints and tips on how to ensure you've still got that great workplace environment, even when you're all working from home, then that's what we do. That's what we specialise in. We'll be happy to run through that with you. Thank you very much, and I look forward to sharing more tips and guidance with you soon. Thanks.